With Election Day in less than 2 months, what is on the line is not a simple difference of policies, it is the fate of our nation. Judicial activists at all levels have put roadblocks in the way of justice. The 34-time convicted felon will not see a prison cell before Election Day. MAGA activists at state and local levels are working to disenfranchise voters, and foreign governments are paying conservative bloggers to spread their propaganda. On Liberal Dan Radio, we cut through the lies, unwind the spin, and give facts to counter their fiction. Will you do what needs to be done to make sure our nation isn't taken over by an autocratic despot? Or will you sit back and watch as our nation falls to ruin? The clock is ticking. Act now, before it's too late. Welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you from New Orleans, Louisiana. There is no Blog Talk radio stream today because of apparent technical difficulties, so if you want to join the conversation, you just have to join the chat rooms, either over on liberaldanradio.com or twitch.tv/liberaldanradio. Either way will get you there. Again, no call-ins today, unfortunately, but, you know, it is what it is, and I guess I have to do that as well because, you know, I don't have the soundboard from Blog Talk Radio either. I need to work on that. I need to make a soundboard, and I need to work on getting my backup phone, Google phone up and running. You know, the 21st century suffragettes used my idea. I still haven't implemented my idea yet either for as a backup, you know, go figure. So shout out to the 21st century suffragettes for supporting the show, and you should support them as well. Thank you, Diane, Benny, etc. And everybody else who is a friend of the show, go to liberaldan.com, click the Friends of the Show button, and you'll see links to many people's page, some past, some present as well. So, got a lot of stuff to talk about today. So, I have a normal rule for the chat, okay? I have a normal rule for the chat, which is when somebody comes in and they make an argument that everybody's supposed to attack the argument and not the person making the argument. That's a typical standard rule, and the mods know that, and the mods have their. I trust them to implement that and to moderate as they see fit as it pertains to this rule. I'm going to give a slight addendum to the rule, especially for today's show, because of the show description and how I've described it, both in the title and the description and everything like that. All the subject matters that we're going to be discussing. It's very well possible that Nazis may come into the chat. Anti-Semites, Nazis, white supremacists, bigots, etc. We may get a little extra of those today, maybe, if the algorithms pick it up and they happen to catch the scent of the anti-Semitism hatred that is going to be going on today, because we hate anti-Semites here at Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. So, if somebody comes in and into the chat and goes full Nazi, you have full permission to attack them for being Nazis. That is being a Nazi is a choice. You are not attacking the person. You are attacking the overall position of that person by them being a Nazi. So calling people out for being Nazis is fair game in the chat, as well as it is here as well. Hopefully, the Nazi anti-Semite people that come through will be few and far between, and we won't have to deal with it too much. However, we've seen it before. We might see it again. Who knows? So, thank you. That's the bare minimum for now. Well, I mean, there's not much we can do to somebody other than verbally berate them in a YouTube chat. I'm a full supporter of, when Richard Spencer got, I didn't cry for that either, but we can't do that in the chat now, can we? So, hey, Mira, Ali, good to see you. Alarasia, Steve, Nick, Jackie, Roxanne, Janelle, Dawn, Kelly, the Mod Squad, Aaron and Jolie, Bethany. If I've missed anybody, I apologize. I'll respond to you as it happens. Hey Benny, thank you very much, and thank you for the $2 for the super chat. Appreciate you as well. Big shout out to 21st Century Suffragettes, which I already hyped up earlier. I don't know if you heard it or not, but I was already hyping you up before I even saw the $2. So maybe that was a premonition, if you will. Good to see you, Robin. Thank you so much as well for joining. Again, if you want to support the show, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share videos, comment on other videos, engage with other people who are posting. Get those algorithms up and going. Al Gore needs more rhythm. All of those things are things you could do for free. Venmo. Liberal Dan and Venmo, or buy me a cider. Either go to liberaldan.com, click the buy me a cider button, or go to buymecoffee.com/liberaldanradio. Either way gets you there. That's one-time contributions, as well as the super chats, super stickers, bit purchases as well. If you have Amazon Prime, it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/liberaldanradio, or twitch.tv/nerdydan.com. Both of them are my channels, and I'm trying to promote both of them, I guess. And then you could also gift memberships and subscriptions as applicable as well. So again, thank you everybody for being here. You probably can't hear the barking dog in the background, but unfortunately, I don't know what's going on with the dog in the background, but he's barking at something, and I think that's the puppy, not the other one. So anyway, my microphone should be good enough that you're not hearing it, but I'm really hoping that somebody will take care of the dog in a second. Actually, I think I might just mute this and yell something out real quick. So hold on a second. I am back. So hopefully somebody will go take care of the dog. Least they can do, right? Anyway. Dog grew 10 pounds in 3 weeks. He is going to be a big 3-legged boy, and he's very cute and very sweet. Hey, Benny, thank you again for the other $2 super chat. Awesome. You're awesome. Appreciate you as a bunch for that and everything else that you do. So let's see what else. There is more to the Kia saga, and I'll talk a little bit about that as we let more people trickle in. There is a little more to the Kia saga. Apparently the insurance, I'm not exactly sure when the last time I had, when the last update I had, but insurance is still giving me problems on trying to, figure out, or at least explain to me why two people using 3 cars magically will use 12,000 more miles a year than 2 people using 2 cars. It doesn't make any sense. Plus, we work from home and all that crap. So I'm currently looking for a new insurer. Because my insurance, I guess, this starts next month anyway. The new plan year starts next month. So hopefully we can just nip that in the bud and take care of that. But the other thing that happened with my car, and I don't think I talked about this last week. Maybe I did. I don't know. But if you missed it, whatever. I'm still ranting about it. The Kia dealership that is no longer in existence because the owner died and the whole thing was bought out by the new one, sold my mother-in-law a new car back in April of 2020. Although the Kia records say that the car was initially purchased on September 3rd, 2019. So they didn't sell my mother-in-law a new car. It says new on the contract, but it's not. It wasn't new. Apparently it was owned by somebody else, and therefore she didn't have the same warranty that she was promised. So yeah, Kia can suck it. Kia can absolutely suck it. And they gave they gave some, a couple of letters. We could the sale type was this. I don't know what this was, whatever the what letters were, but I don't know what that means. So I'm like, could you please explain to the layperson what the hell this means, because I don't know what you're trying to say. And I don't see those letters anywhere on the document explaining the fact that this car was a new car. New car. Except it wasn't a new car. It was previously owned. They didn't drive it much unless for some reason they cracked into the odometer and rolled it back and then sold it as new again. I don't know. But I have a pretty successful attorney who's, I think, retired now, but he's one of my cousins. I may shoot him an email and be like, hey, what are your thoughts here? But my thoughts are pretty much, all of this sucks, and it's probably unlikely that there's anybody to sue, because even if you could sue, even if the trust of my mother-in-law could sue, or the estate of my mother-in-law could sue the trust of the other person that died, I'm sure there's nothing left in the corporation that she bought the money from anyway, so it is what it is. Hey, Bethany, thank you for coming and subscribing and watching. Appreciate you. I have seen you a bunch on Hal, so I appreciate you stopping by and joining us for the show. So let's see. Kia is hard. Almost the same thing happened to me. I did get it from a dealership. Wait. Maria, is it Maria, Ali? Email me at liberaldanradio@gmail.com if you're up to it. I would definitely like to hear more about what happened with you, because if this is happening to more and more people, maybe it's something that needs to be delved into further. Maybe there's some sort of large class that could be formed. I don't know. I mean, now it's just you and me, but if we could have evidence that these things happen to multiple people, who knows at this point, right? So, but anyway, I think that Kia is fraudulent. I think that the old dealership was fraudulent. The new dealership doesn't feel like it's responsible for anything, which I guess makes sense because corporations suck. The whole idea of, I talked about that a good bunch on Tuesday on my Nerdy Dan stream. Because what happens, as I mentioned on Hal Friday, because I got to go on Hal's show Friday, which was awesome, I'll often end up playing games on my nerdydan.com channel, but still talking politics, especially if people come around and want to chat about those sort of things. I also mentioned on Hal's show that it's very well possible that perennial candidate Vermin Supreme might be a guest on the podcast at some point soon. So I did have a libertarian candidate in the 2020 election to discuss whether or not taxation was theft. It was an interesting show. It went well. We disagree, but I'm more than welcome to have people we disagree with. A friend of mine, Ari, actually works, I guess, as somebody on the campaign, and so Ari was like, "Hey, do you want to invite him on?" I'm like, "Sure, why not?" Might as well have one presidential candidate, right? So, let's see, Ali, yes, I've checked. All they do is extend warranties beyond how much their cars will last. Pretty much. I worked for a corporation for a little while. Worst job of my life. Bunch of BS. Lots of things are corporations, though. Liberal Dan. There's a Liberal Dan LLC that, I formed when I started doing the podcast because if I said something that pissed somebody off and they wanted to sue me for it, they're not going to get much. They're not going to come after my house. They're not going to come after my property. Maybe they'll come after the couple $100 I have in my bank account. It is what it is, right? Taxation without representation is called insurance. Interesting. But yeah, insurance also sucks, but we've talked about that as well on the show plenty of times. Hey, Surfer Norm, good to see you again. One or two new names. So if you have, that's a year and a half. My car still is 12,000 miles. My mother-in-law's car was a Kia Soul. The Kia Soul doesn't even have 7,000 miles on it yet, and it was sold to her February 6, 2020. My wife's car only has 37,000 miles on it. So for 4.5 years, that's about 8,000 miles a year. My Sienna, my van, has over 215,000 miles on it. That's because I used to do Uber and Lyft for a good bit. But since 2020, October 2020, I've only put 16,000 miles on it. So there's no reason why Allstate should be charging me this much money for the insurance, but it is what it is, and they're going to lose a customer, and F them. So it happens. Okay, I know. Okay, that's fine. I get you now. I mean, the corporation I work for now is rather large. I mean, I don't think it's huge like Google. It's not huge like Google or anything like that, but it's a multi-state law firm. So there's that. So yes, a Kia Soul. That's a whole different ballgame with that car. I got a sedan. Yeah, I mean, my mother-in-law was one of the Kias that got stolen. It got stolen because of the TikTok hack. And so we now have a club on it just to make sure. Hey, Kelly, thank you for being a Danimal. Appreciate you for joining the crew. The crew of Danimals. That's what I should call the group of everybody. The crew of Danimals, and KRUE, like with Mardi Gras or whatever. Anyway, so I think we've given enough time to come into the show and to join us. We could still talk about how sucky Kia is. We could still talk about how sucky Allstate is. We could still talk about all that stuff. But we are going to move on to the main. Let's see. Well, I mean, my mother-in-law's no longer alive. She passed away in April. So now we're dealing with all this stuff as it's pertaining to her loss. If you missed the thing, one thing I'll say about the Kia Finance, which sucks, is that Kia Finance was wanting to, for everybody who's new, Kia Finance was wanting us to do another credit application so my wife could take on, or so we could take on the loan that my mother-in-law had on the vehicle. Problem is they wouldn't let us do it. They would only let her do it, and I make the most money in the house. She was not going to get approved for a loan based off of her salary. With our salary, absolutely we would get it. Like when my wife took out her loan, to get her Kia Seltos, we used our joint income. But for some reason, Hyundai Finance, just the same thing, wouldn't let her do it. So it was like, and then they've threatened to repossess the vehicle if we didn't do it. So that's why we took out a home equity loan and said, screw you, we're paying off this immediately, and then hopefully we'll sell the house, then pay back off the home equity loan, and the credit card debt will be gone and whatever, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully that'll be the end of it, whatever. But yeah, so Kia Finance sucks too. I had AAA for a while, but they stopped writing, I think, in the area, or it stopped being good. People have suggested Progressive. People have suggested Geico. Geico is actually looking back into the whole other issue that we're talking about, so we'll see. Yes, they are playing me. It's unfortunately. Kelly, how long has YouTube been running now? What do you mean? Like this channel or just YouTube in general? Oh no, cosine, you did tangent. I secant what you did there. Anyway, so let's start talking about Donald Trump, My Pillow, etc. The My Pillow guy, Donald Trump, all the thing. And now MSNBC, to its credit, did pick up the story about the My Pillow guy, which is good for some of it, but they didn't get all of it. They did not get all of it. So let's first go over to here. I shared this to Liberal Dan Radio on Twitter, or Shitter, or whatever you want to call it. Very few things to look at here. First of all right, let's try and get it bigger. Come on. For some reason it's shrinking. Oh well. So if you're at all familiar with Nazis and Nazi propaganda and their anti-Semitic BS, you will plainly notice, and I noticed it immediately as soon as I saw it. And at first, the first thing, a friend of mine shared the ad, and I was like, you know what? I need to go look up at My Pillow on Facebook. I want to verify that this is correct. And the ad was still up at the time that I took the screenshot. So what we have here, the price of their pillows are $14.88. The pillow costs more than the Trump media stock. That's hilarious. Good one, Mr. Mason. I like that. But the other thing we're going to point out, and the thing that MSNBC missed, and this is why we need more, like, people like Hal, people like Dude, people like Boston Brian, people like myself out here with support doing things because we're going to catch the things that the mainstream media misses. Not that the mainstream media is wrong, but sometimes they do miss stuff, and these things are important because we want to basically make sure that people know that there's no way in hell that this was an accident. One number, silliness. You know, if the pillows were just $14 even, there would be no way that you could say 14 is anti-Semitic in and of itself. The pillows that are $14.88, that raises eyebrows significantly, and most reasonable people would say, oh yes, he's pandering to the Nazis right now. But the promo code R234, not R2D2, mind you, R234. 234 being what we want to look at the moment. So let's go to the Anti-Defamation League website first. And 88 is the simple one. H is the 8th letter of the alphabet. So if you say 88, when white supremacist Nazi type folks say 88, they are saying HH or Hail Hitler. That's what 88 stands for. So there's that. That's a simple one. Again, 88 by itself, it would be kind of hard without any other things to give you notice or whatever. But the fact that they use $14.88 raised my eyebrows a good bit. Because 14 to white supremacist is in reference to the 14 words, which is a white supremacist slogan. We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. 14 words. Because, you know, I had to count it out because I don't trust that white supremacist Nazi MAGA folks have the ability to count correctly. So you have to assume that, you know, maybe one of them got it right, but, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, that's so 14 words, and so 14 and 88, $14.88. Clearly a reference to Nazism, anti-Semitism, to these people, and pandering to these people whatsoever. Yes, impeccable living. Yes, the price is a racist dog whistle, and it's loud and clear for anybody who's. This is one of the reasons why, you know, one of my classes when I was in high school, I took college level classes as it pertains to like issues of Judaism, and one of those courses that we had was a course on how to spot, how to notice, how to recognize anti-Semitism, like, and it's, you know, so you can pick up on the racist dog whistles. So there are a lot of people out there who might very well see the 1488 and be like, oh, that's really bad, but a lot of people might not even realize it. But that's why I took the class. That's why they taught us the class, so we could pick up even subtle hints of anti-Semitism. But 1488 is not a subtle hint of anti-Semitism. What was subtle, what MSNBC missed, but I did not, was the fact, remember the code was R234? The 234 is a numeric slogan used by the Aryan, the New Aryan Empire. All right, the New Aryan Empire uses the numbers 2, 3, 4 in either Latin or Roman numeral forms. The numbers 2, 3, 4 correspond to the letters in the words of the phrase "to the dirt." To having 2 letters, the having 3 letters, dirt having 4 letters. So to the dirt is the number 234, and that is used either again by Roman or Latin numeral forms by the New Aryan Empire. So you're not going to convince me that after they used $14.88 to tell what their price of the pillow was, that the use of R234 as their code, i.e. 234, to the dirt, you're not going to convince me that that also wasn't purposefully done. So, motion on the floor to call, if it's not already done already, to call them mine pillows, MEIN, mine pillows, instead of my pillow, because, Nazi. You might not see that coming, but, we see it coming, and we now have exposed these people about... Now, mostly, if you're listening, you're watching on Liberal Dan Radio, you're probably not going to buy a My Pillow. But how can you support... If you're on the fence, if you're questioning whether or not you want to support Donald Trump and the people that Donald Trump surrounds himself with, how can you support Donald Trump and not be an anti-Semite if Donald Trump embraces the mind pillow guy? But there's more. There's not more on the My Pillow guy. This is the case about My Pillow. That's fine. But there's more to come as it pertains to Trump and surrounding himself with Nazis, etc. Because we do have, as I talked about on Hal's show, we do have a Hypocrite of the Week this week. And it is a twofer. We did not have a hat trick of hypocrisy this week, but we do have a 2-for Hypocrite of the Week. So without further ado, let us hear the Hypocrite of the Week. This week we have a 2-for Hypocrite of the Week. First, CNN revealed that Mark Robinson allegedly put that he was a black Nazi and other horrible things on a porn site. Then Matt Gaetz was exposed, in courtroom documents at least, as having had attended a drug-laden sex party featuring underage young women. Both run on so-called morality and family values. They also have the full-throated support of Donald Trump. Birds of a feather do flock together, don't they? To see who next week's Hypocrite of the Week will be, tune in live Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Central on LiberalDanRadio.com or twitch.tv/LiberalDanRadio for more talk from the left. That's right. So there you go. Rose joined us for Hypocrite of the Week as well. Hello, Rose. How are you? Big hearts. Put hearts in the chat for Rose, if you will. Hit the little heart button or whatever. Get the hearts going if you like Rose. So yeah. So if you hadn't caught that, I actually didn't know about the Matt Gaetz thing. I mean, I knew Matt Gaetz had issues with underage people. There was this whole Venmo thing that was released that somehow he skirted by on, no issue. But I was not made aware of the new news that had come out last week because I was busy focusing on the Mark Robinson being a porn addict, calling people or calling himself a black Nazi, saying that he would have loved to have owned slaves had he, if he had the opportunity to. We should bring back slavery. All of these things that CNN found on the Nude Africa website, and lots of other horrible, terrible things as well, including how he climbed up a ladder and looked into the girl's shower, and he was able to do it twice before they locked the access. That was he fully misses his ability to do that. He looks back on it with such great joy, I guess, that he had peeping in. And of course, he'll say that trans women shouldn't belong in women's rooms because he'll misgender them, saying that they're not who they are. But yet he is fully guilty of the things, supposedly, that he's against. But again, he called himself, according to CNN, a black Nazi. And he has the full-throated support of Donald Trump. Of course, I think now, they've kind of been like, maybe it's not a good idea for you, Mark Robinson, to come to any more events. And then I believe Georgia's Governor Kemp has I think is the only one who has withdrawn their support for Mark Robinson. So I think Kemp is the only one to have done it. The Republican Governors Association says that their ads for Robinson, I think, stops tomorrow. And I think that they're not buying any more ads, supposedly. So maybe they're giving up on the governor's race when it comes to the Republican governors. But J.D. Vance has publicly won't condemn what he said. He's like, the things that he's reported to have said are might be bad, but he's giving Mark Robinson the benefit of the doubt. He's let the people of North Carolina decide. It's up for them to decide. No, it's not just up for them to decide. If your presidential candidate, Donald Trump, is fully supporting Mark Robinson, calls Mark Robinson, Martin Luther King on steroids, or wherever he worded it, then that is a problem, because again, that is Donald Trump supporting bigotry, supporting racism, supporting somebody who called himself a black Nazi. I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised to find somewhere if Mark Robinson had a 14 or 88 tattoo on him either. Maybe not a 234, because I don't even know if the New Aryan Empire would be welcoming of a Mark Robinson into their ranks, like a Clayton Bigsby from the Chappelle Show, if you will. But J.D. Vance would say, "What's wrong with Hitler being black?" Exactly. Yes, he was a peeping Tom. You could say something else about that. But anyway, let's see. Making an effort to be a perv, and you shouldn't have to make an effort to be a perv. If you're a perv, just be a perv. And the thing that I'm surprised about this whole thing was he could have simply said, "I was doing that back in the days before I was saved, and as such, I have now fully accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and I no longer support those things that I did because I'm saved now." He could have written all stuff off from the past, because that's what a lot of these hypocrites do. They'll continue to be ungodly, sinning or whatever, but they'll claim that by accepting Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, that they've been washed of all of their previous sins. And that's the excuse for people now ignoring it, or them wanting people to ignore their past behavior, because that was the old me. But, leopards don't change their spots now, do they? So, there's that. Exactly, Alasia. You call BS on that being saved stuff. Look, I fully will admit and fully offer that there are probably some people who turn their lives around after finding religion, and that's fine. I'm not begrudging the people that do. I'm just saying that Mark Robinson, his heart is so hardened that it would be impossible for him to turn his life around at that point, to use other terminology that he might be familiar with. He has such a hardened heart. He is so full of hate and anger and bigotry that there is no way that any, being saved could be anything other than a ploy. I don't believe it. And if he insists that it's true, well, that's just his opinion, man. So, just like the football player candidate, Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker was the one who, whatever. And with the whole Matt Gaetz thing, it was shown that he, had public Venmo payments to this person who was all involved with these horrible activities, and now people have testified in documents specifically naming Matt Gaetz as having been involved in these drug-laden sex parties that included underage people who were clearly being sexually assaulted. Now, he denies being there. Maybe one person denies him being there too, but other people say, in fact, in the court documents, in the sworn statements, that he was in fact there. Which is why me and Hal have gotten to calling Matt Gaetz, as I've called him Pizza Gaetz, Lil Diddy. Because the allegations against Matt Gaetz seem to have a lot in common with some of the things that Lil Diddy did. Now remember, and as was brought up, Hal reminded me of this part, because there's always a part where when you start talking about the horrible things that conservatives do, there's always a part, there'll always be a part that you forget. Oh yeah, there's that too. Apparently Matt Gaetz was walking around the floor of Congress, in the House floor, showing people naked pictures of young women. I don't know if those young women were legal age women or not, but he's sitting there walking around like a butthead, not like butthead, but like Beavis and Butthead, but like, look at this chick, and walking around, and they would be like, dude, just go away. And they didn't want him anywhere near them with that stuff. Now, this is yucky on multiple levels. A, if they were underage, gross. That's him showing, distributing child pornography. That's a federal charge right there. But I don't know if they were underage or not. On his phone, I don't know if they were underage, but seeing as who he's taken pictures with in the past and all of the accusations around him, it's not unreasonable to think that it might be something that would have been questioned of him for going around and flashing around naked pictures of young girls, young women to his fellow cohorts in the House of Representatives. But it's also, even if they were of age, if he didn't have consent from these people whose images that he got, assuming he got those images from them directly, if he didn't have consent from them to show those pictures to anybody else, then that's also should be considered a violation of their autonomy, their rights, a consent violation as well. Because if you send somebody a picture of yourself that's naked, that person should not feel free to be like, hey, look at this. No, that's between you and that person. So if you're out there, somebody shares you a picture in confidence and doesn't give you permission to share it, but then says, hey, that person goes, like Matt Gaetz goes, oh, look at this, look at this, look at this. That is another consent violation. So that's another gross, icky thing of Congressman Matt Gaetz. And as I brought up on Hal, what happened to Nestor? Poor little Nestor. Nobody thinks of Nestor anymore. What are all these actions? How are they affecting Nestor? So, yeah, Becky D. Gaetz was too disgusting even for the more pervy people. And who knows, maybe those people that he grossed out and he was too disgusting for, those could have been people who also were the Madison Cawthorn. Remember, Madison Cawthorn was on his way out as he got defeated. Madison Cawthorn basically said that there are hypocrites in the Republican Party who run on family values, who have these, orgies or whatever, that they have these sex parties in D.C. And look, if you want to have a sex party, if everybody consents, and I don't have a problem with that, as long as everybody there is legal and they're consenting and there's no threats of, you must do this. There's no question of whether they can consent because of power dynamics or whatever. If you want to have, a big old orgy in D.C., fine. Just don't be a freaking hypocrite about it. But hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite. And as such, we're going to call him out on it every single time it happens. Of course, Madison Cawthorn was the one who had the video where he was, humping his friend's face, back in college or whatever the hell that video was. And of course, he didn't name names of the people who were doing all this stuff. So his accusations are then become meaningless because we don't know who's the hypocrites, whatever. But again, remember, Madison Cawthorn was also somebody who had the full-throated support of the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, the Pizzagates, the little ditties, the 6Bs, the Donald Trumps of the world. And who else was Madison Cawthorn? But he talked about Adolf Hitler in a nice way. He didn't seem to have a problem with Adolf Hitler. He took a trip to Adolf Hitler's home or whatever and said, hey, I'm right here where Hitler was or whatever. And was all happy and proud to be there. Little Aryan youth that was Madison Cawthorn that didn't last very long in Congress. But 56, Nick Rich, key bump parties according to Cawthorn. I mean, again, whatever floats their boat. As long as everybody consents, I don't care. Unless you're a hypocrite. Unless you're trying to pass legislation based on some sort of sexual morality, then I'm going to call you out on your hypocrisy. But if you're not being a hypocrite, if you're not pushing legislation that tells other people what they can or can't do with their bodies, If you're not doing that, if you're supporting people doing whatever they want to do with their own bodies, then I'm not going to judge you for what you do with yours. It's as simple as that. But the moment you cross that line, like former Louisiana Senator David Vitter, he was very full-throated in support of kicking former Louisiana representative out of the speakership because of his outed affair with porn stars as Larry, or I don't know if it was a porn star, but maybe it was hookers. I don't know. But it was exposed by Larry Flint that the former person who sat in his seat a few people ago it was hypocritically having an affair, and that person was about to be Speaker of the House. But David Vitter then is, very loud about all of his sexual morality stuff, and then, of course, is found to have committed serious sins with hookers in Louisiana as well. So, was Cawthorn the guy with the tree punching video? It may have been. I don't know. When are the Republicans fans going to get a clue and put the support behind people that aren't the tainting? Representative equals representative. Yep, exactly. I mean, but they don't care, because at the bottom line, at the end of the day, as long as Donald Trump hates who they hate, his hate is not a bug, it's a feature. My next video I'm trying to produce, but I've had too many things running around for the case against Donald Trump, is basically going to be about his bigotry. I could just use this video perhaps as it. And to people, when I make the video about the case against Donald Trump, that he's a bigot, he's an anti-Semite, all of that may very well be a sales point to many people who just think, okay, so Donald Trump doesn't like the black people. I'm fine with that. So Republicans don't like black people. They're fine with it. To them, it's a feature of Donald Trump's candidacy and not a bug. So there's that. Well, none of you will be surprised that a guy from Grindr is on his way over. I need to get ready. I might be back. I'm not sure. Well, if you're not back, I hope he has your back. So we got a tree puncher, a pederast, a guy dumb enough to comment on a porn site, much less what he said, a VP candidate who'd rather pound a sofa. No, they aren't weird. It's clearly not an understatement. Yeah, exactly, Whisper Mason. They are totally weird. I mean, Tim Walz was absolutely right. Yeah, Cawthorn started telling their secrets once it was clear that Cawthorn was, and we really haven't heard much from Cawthorn since. I don't know, maybe Cawthorn pops on some of the minor, Newsmax, America First Radio, whatever you want to call it. Maybe he hops on there from time to time, but I haven't seen or heard much of him since he lost his seat. So who knows? It's not Trumpy's hate, it's his envy. Well, there's all sorts of the 7 deadly sins that he's guilty of, right? So, but again, just as a reminder, just to kind of go back to the whole My Pillow thing, just to kind of reset that whole thing again. Remember, there's 3 things that are anti-Semitic about that ad: 14, 88, and 234. 234 to the dirt. 14, the 14 words. 88 is the Hail Hitler thing. So there's all that. What else is there to talk about? Well, the title of the show. If you vote for Donald Trump, you're an anti-Semite. And then once we talk about this, we're going to talk about the case of the Marcellus WIlliams in Missouri, because that's a frickin' crying shame as well. But so we got Donald Trump here, and he's talking to Israeli American some group, him trying to pander to Jewish people. He fails to do so terribly, but yeah, thank you, Becky, for reminding everybody to share. So here we go. Donald Trump speaking at an anti-Semitism event. He's at an event dealing with anti-Semitism, and he says this crap.
Jewish people have no excuse. I got 29%.
I like how they're clapping. Like, I'm like, are you clapping because you're glad that Donald Trump got 29% of the Jewish vote? I mean, good on you if you're clapping at that. I mean, if that's the case, but yeah, he got 29% of the Jewish vote, I guess, in 2020. They have no excuse. There's no excuse.
I went from 25 to 29%. Think of that. Honestly, you didn't treat yourselves well. You didn't.
We didn't treat ourselves well. Thank you so much, Donald. I'll be my own company on, who if I'm treating myself well or not, especially as a Jewish person. I'm not going to let some goyish schmuck, to use Jewish parlance, to tell me that I'm not treating myself well as it pertains to my Judaism. What a mashugana. Let's go on.
It was a terrible thing. And what made me even more upset about it is the current polling has just been announced. Now, I just announced the polls and I
just announced the polls and then he lost his train of thought and he skipped a few words. But, he doesn't have brain problems whatsoever, right?
Now polling at about 40%. That means 60% of Jewish people are going.
See, there may be people in the audience who be like, ooh, he went up from 25 to 40%. Yay!
To vote for Kamala or a Democrat.
Kamala.
And honestly, you ought to have your heads examined. You ought to have your heads examined. And
he's at a conference about anti-Semitism, talking to a bunch of Jews, telling Jewish people that they should have their heads examined for not supporting the person who's currently being an anti-Semite. So it could have had a V8, but he probably would want an 8.8.
And those votes may be necessary for us to win.
Thank you, Jolie, for 5 gifted memberships. Appreciate you as always. You're awesome.
I say us to win because we're in this together. But
we're not in this together. You're not in it with anybody. You're in it for yourself, dummy.
Who are these people? Who are the 60%?
Who are these people? Pulling in his Jerry Seinfeld.
That would vote. And I really believe that.
Who are these people? I'm one of those people, Donald, and I'll fully explain to you why I'm never going to vote for you, because you perpetuate, anti-Semitic tropes, even the whole, and racist tropes of that. Back in the day, he said that he doesn't want black people handling his money. He wants the people with yarmulkes handling his money. Like, perpetuating the Jewish stereotype that we're all good with money, and as such, he wants us to be able to deal with money, which of course perpetuates the stereotypes on Jewish greed and Jewish banking and international banking that several people like to spout. Let's continue.
Bad things, very bad things are going to happen. And I'll put it to you very simply and as gently as I can.
Is he putting it gently or gentilely? Because Trump knows nothing about gentle, but he is a Gentile, so maybe he meant that. I don't know. But I'm going to put it as gentilely as possible. You all are dumb if you don't vote for me.
I wasn't treated properly by the voters who happen to be Jewish. I don't know. Do they know what the hell is happening?
Yes, we do. We know that you support white supremacists. We know, and that's gotten worse. My Pillow guy now is one of your buddies, and where are you on that whole thing? Nowhere, because you don't care. There's the whole Charlottesville thing with good people on both sides, and I have a video on this explaining why Donald Trump was being anti-Semitic and pro-Nazi on that. It's not because he specifically was saying that the Nazis were good people. I mean, he probably does think that they're good people, but he was calling the people marching next to the Nazis good people. And again, if you march next to Nazis knowingly, you're not a good person because you're knowingly marching next to Nazis. And that's why we don't like you. That's why the majority of Jewish people don't like you. It's why you only got 25%, I guess, in the last election. The fact that you might get 40 is a shanda in and of itself. That is a travesty. No Jewish person or anybody who's Jewish who is Jewish adjacent, like if you know and like Jewish people, no Jewish person should be voting for Donald Trump, period, after this BS. Because, and I'll get to even more of that in a second. So here, let's continue.
If I don't win this election, and the Jewish people would really have a lot to do with that if that happens, because
it's all our fault. We're again, somebody said we're 2% of the population, but it would be all of our fault. Let's blame the Jews for everything. That's the problem here. That is my ultimate problem. It's not Donald Trump saying his stupidity, because Donald Trump is always going to say something stupid. Donald Trump is always going to say something stupid. We'll get to that in a second.
That means 60% of the people are voting for the enemy, Israel.
The enemy. Again, we'll get to that in a second as well.
In my opinion, will cease to exist within 2 years, and I believe I'm 100% right. You know,
Donald Trump believes he's 100% right. 60% of the time it works 100% of the time, right? Black Panther or whatever Sex Panther is the name of the cologne from Anchorman, but still, no, you're hardly ever right.
The hat that comes out, Trump was right about everything, and I believe I'm right, and that's a hell of a thing.
I believe I'm right. It's a hell of a thing. It's a hell of a thing for me to be right because it never happens.
To say, but I believe I'm right. If I do win, Israel will be safe and secured. We will stop the toxic poison of anti-Semitism from spreading.
You're spewing toxic poison and anti-Semitism. And you're just going to back Netanyahu's ability to just cluster bomb and raise Gaza and maybe even the West Bank so you and your stupid family can open resorts there probably. And I'm more right than Donald Trump. And I won't want to see that because if Donald Trump wins, watch that happen. And I'll get to point back to this show, September 23rd, and other shows as well that have said that if Trump wins and he backs Netanyahu's raising of Gaza, you're going to see Trump resorts in Israel, in occupied Gaza.
Spreading here, all over America, it's spreading. It's spreading like it's never spread before. I've never
because of you and people like you. Like the Mind Pillow guy.
Seen anything like it. I really believe it would be obliteration, and it'll happen quickly, too. It's very close to happening. With your vote, we will reject anti-Semitism in our schools, reject it in our foreign policy. We will reject it in our immigration system.
That is total 100% BS. 100% B-freaking-S. See, is this? There we go. Donald Trump is being a full-on anti-Semite with this BS that he's talking about right here at this anti-Semitism event. Because what he's doing is he's enabling himself now to fork it. If I lose, it's the fault of the Jews. So then he can start blaming Jewish people for his loss. And then his supporters are going to start blaming Jewish people for his loss. And you're going to start seeing more attacks on synagogues, more attacks on Jewish schools, more attacks in schools by Jewish people, all because his supporters are going to be angry at the people who Donald Trump says cost him the election. And who are the people that he's blaming in advance for costing him the election? Jewish people. Plain and simple. He is blaming us for his loss. Not his own ineptitude, not his inability to, actually reach new voters, but he's blaming the Jews in a full-throated way. And his supporters are listening, and they're paying attention, and they're going to come after Jewish people, maybe whether or not he wins. He could win. You remember when he won in 2016, and he was angry that he lost California because he thought he should have won California. He can't get over losing states even when he wins, because he doesn't think he should lose anything. It's all a hoax, a sham, whatever it is. But his supporters are going to hear this. And I wouldn't be surprised if the attacks start coming before the election. on Jewish people. Because they're going to be like, well, if it's their fault, if they're going to be voting 60-40 for against Donald Trump for Vice President Harris, then if they start trying to take us out, then it's more likely to help him according to his math, right? I mean, according to real math too, because yeah, there is a large plurality of Jews that are Democrats and a large majority of Jewish people who reject people who support anti-Semitism, racism, and bigotry, because we know what it feels like. And as such, we don't want to support politicians who support those things, or who turn a blind eye to those things, or who make clear anti-Semitic statements at an anti-Semitism event. He has now put Jewish people's lives in danger because of those words that he said. And if he continues to harp on them, there's going to be more threats to Jewish people, just like there are threats to Haitian people, etc. So he lied about Haitian people. He continued to perpetuate this false story about eating the dogs and eating the cats. He continued to perpetuate that crap, and his supporters then went, you had the Proud Boys marching down the streets in Springfield. You had people who, there were bomb threats against schools, against hospitals. Haitian individuals who were here legally, mind you, had acid thrown in their cars, were threatened themselves. This is going to happen to Jewish people if Donald Trump continues to push this. And the blood will be on his hands for pushing this anti-Semitism. Furthermore, if you remember in that video that was just played, he also said something about they're the enemy. They're voting for the enemy. So Donald Trump is again pushing this rhetoric that labels us, anybody who opposes him, is, quote, the enemy. This is not just Jewish people now, which is everybody who votes against him is the enemy. And as such, that gives the people who support him, the Proud Boys, Boogaloo Boys, whatever, New Aryan Nation, all the people all the usual suspects, they're going to be like, well, if they're the enemy, we need to take actions against the enemy. So again, he's pushing and promoting violent rhetoric. And the two people who went after him were registered Republicans and supported him in the past. And freaking crazy and should have never owned a rifle at all either. But he's blaming us for the things that he's perpetuating. Again, because every conservative accusation is a confession. End rant. Yep, it is 9 p.m. Central, 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. Mondays and Wednesdays, live here on liberaldanradio.com or twitch.tv/liberaldanradio. We have been talking about all the different ways in which Trump and his supporters are supporting anti-Semitism, bigotry, hatred, etc. And again, to many of the people that support him, that's a feature, not a bug. Support the show. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the stream, share other videos that you like, especially ones during election season that are talking about election issues. If you want to support the show monetarily, there's one time with Venmo. Also go to liberaldan.com, click the Buy Me a Cider button, or it's buymeacoffee.com/liberaldanradio. Either way will get you there for one-time contributions. You can be a patron, patreon.com/liberaldan or patreon.liberaldan.com. Both of you get you there. Support monthly. You can also support monthly on Twitch and on YouTube, and you can also do one-time payments, one-time support with super chats, super stickers, bit purchases, etc. as well. And you can buy other people's subscriptions, memberships as well. Oh, Adlo's here. Adlo's here. Now, just as a reminder to everybody in the chat, as I've said before at the beginning of the last hour, say it again at the beginning of this hour. Normally, the rule here is if somebody is making a point that you don't like in the chat, address the point being made, not the person making the point. But if the point being made is anti-Semitic, Nazi supporting, Nazi sympathizing, whatever, the person outs themselves as a Nazi, full on attack them for being a Nazi, because that's attacking their choices. That's not attacking the individual, that's attacking the individual's choices. So if somebody full-throated in chat decides to be a Nazi, you have carte blanche to attack them for being a Nazi. Simple as that. Can we eat the trolls instead of the dogs and cats? I don't know what you would serve alongside trolls. I don't know what sauce goes well with trolls either. But maybe we should start looking up recipes. You know. Hedge enemy, too gamey. That's the thing. You have to make sure to cook the troll right. And you have to have a proper side. I mean, I would ask what kind of wine you would serve with a troll, but the trolls come with their own wine. They just wine all the time. So, Adlohim says being liberal is a choice. So is being conservative. But being Nazi is also a choice, and I am willing to separate there are conservatives who are voting for Vice President Harris because they know that conservatism is suffering under Donald Trump. They know that. Unfortunately, some other people might not know that. Troll kebabs. A1 goes with everything. One of the weirdest things that when I was I read the label of A1 as a kid one day, and I was like, this has raisins in it? That's weird. I remember that being a thing. I don't know how long Adlohim has been here in the chat watching the live stream. However, earlier we were talking about this, and I would love to hear Adloh's feelings on the MyPillow ad. This is a legitimate ad on the MyPillow Facebook page, listing the price of my pillows as $14.88, and the promo code is R234. What do you think about that, Adlohim? Do you think that those are just tame numbers? 14, 88, 234. Do you think those are tame numbers and that the MyPillow guy wasn't being a Nazi? Do you think it's all just a coincidence? Or do you think that Mike Lindell and his MyPillow company should be called out for the clear example of anti-Semitism that ad is? What do you say, Adlo? Merrily, I used to love A1, but it's different in America. Huh, interesting. Benny Loco, you serve troll with a side of facts. Well, that's what happened. When you serve trolls, you just got served. So if you're serving the troll, and i.e. you just got served, then yes, that's how you serve trolls. You serve them with facts. So... is also supposed to mean something, or is it just stinky air? I don't know. Are you saying also not Adlo? I don't know. Combination entree beverage. Yes, the combination entree and beverage. You get the trolls in, you get the wine for free. Although you might not want the wine for free because it's not a good year. Their wines never come from good years. Where is the 88 thing originate from, Dan? Because I was born in Poland, 1945. Picture it, Poland, 1945. It's Nazis here. It's American Nazis. Because American Nazis will use HH for Hail Hitler. That's where it came from. Origin of 88. Let's bring up the ADL site. 88 is a white supremacist numerical code for Hail Hitler. H is the 8th letter of the alphabet, so 88 equals 8H equals Hail Hitler. One of the most common white supremacist symbols. 88 is used throughout the entire white supremacist movement, not just neo-Nazis. One can find it as a tattoo or graphic symbol, as part of the name or group, publication, or website, or as part of the screen name or email address. It even is used sometimes as a greeting or sign-off, particularly in messages on social media networks. The number is frequently combined with another white supremacist numeric code 14, shorthand for the 14-word slogan, "We must secure the existence of our people in the future for white children," in the form of 1488. 14/88, 14-88, or 8814, or as we've seen on the My Pillow commercial or Mind Pillow ad, $14.88. It's a white supremacist thing. Maybe it wasn't from Poland, but it's a white supremacist thing here. And here's some pictures of, or I guess I didn't show it, but briefly, there's some pictures of how you might see that in a tattoo or other forms. Oh, look, somebody has an 88 tramp stamp. Isn't that sweet? Or as some people like to call a pull-out target. But look, the facts are where it's at. Yummy. Exactly. Let's see. Omageddon. Homeland Security told me the Nazis are here in 2005 when they also knew they exposed the Orphan harvesting scheme and baby market cult stole my firstborn son. What? That's a lot of words. Well, Steve, you also come from across the pond too, so it's maybe possible that the white supremacist neo-Nazi types in Scotland might have different means of sharing their white supremacist things as well. See, YouTube search these exact words. Joe Scarborough, you left me with a swamp full of body parts. What? Well, I'm sorry that your parents were murdered alongside with your two brothers and older sister. But if you're going to vote for Donald Trump, you're voting for somebody who surrounds himself with the same people that killed your family. It's the same mentality. The mentality of the people who killed your family, and I'll just accept your statement that is a true statement, because it doesn't do you any good to represent yourself falsely. But who knows? I'm sure there are people who won't believe you. But if you really did lose people to the Nazis in the 1940s, then why the hell are you voting for Donald Trump, who tells us that it's the Jews' fault if he loses? That's what he's saying. He literally said it will be the Jewish people's fault if he loses. He's blaming the Jews. Now, back in 2016, when he ran on the total complete ban of Muslims entering this country, I was saying that he was using Hitler tactics by scapegoating a religion. Didn't have to be Jews. He was scapegoating all Muslims to try and win an election. He was putting all of our problems on Muslims. Now, he's scapegoating the Jews directly. I guess scapegoating the Muslims wasn't Hitlery enough for Donald Trump, and as such now, he needs to just go full on Adolf and just flat out blame us, the Jewish people. So how's anybody who's a Jewish person or who knows Jewish people or who likes Jewish people, how are you at all justifying your support for old Donny Boy when he's out there riling up his supporters against Jews? Because again, I'm calling it here, and I don't want to have to. I wish that after the election is over, you could tell me, Dan, you were wrong about this, and I'll be like, thank goodness. But attacks against Jewish people will pick up because of these words from Donald Trump. Donald Trump's words will harm more Jewish people. There will be attacks against Jewish people because of these Donald Trump statements that he made at a conference on anti-Semitism. I can't take you seriously if you're a Jewish person who's still voting for Donald Trump. And if you're voting for Donald Trump and you're not Jewish, I'm still going to call you out on your anti-Semitism, because it literally is anti-Semitism at this point. Because again, he's scapegoating all Jews, or at least 60%, but a majority of Jews. It's the Jews' fault. My uncle rescued me, and you do not need to believe me. I have a tattoo on my arm to prove it. Before I was allowed to be thrown in the oven. I mean, I'm good for your uncle. And again, we've argued in this chat before, and if you were able to escape Nazi Germany, thank goodness that your uncle saved you. But then don't go on and tell me that you're going to support somebody who's scapegoating Jews for his upcoming loss. Because the way things are pointing and the direction it's going, it may very well... I mean, Donald Trump has a very thin, narrow path to victory. It doesn't look good for him. Ever since Vice President Harris took over the election and is now the nominee with Tim Walz as her running mate, things have been going on. Plus, you have Mark Robinson, the black Nazi, self-described, on the porn site, according to CNN. You know, that state can... Who would have thought North Carolina would be in play? I mean, it was in play for Obama back in 2008, but I think there was a little bit of reverse coattailing going on there, simply because of the fact that Libby Dole, I think, was the senator, and there was residency issues. So the Democratic candidate attacked Libby Dole, and there was also some other issues I think that Libby Dole was dealing with. Might be wrong on who it was. I think it was Libby Dole though. And that's what caused the Democrat to win that election. I think Obama kind of rode those coattails. But there's also the fact that Obama ran very strong campaigns in the South to bolster his win and to get the win in the Democratic primaries. And that may very well have turned into larger support in other southern states, like, for example, North Carolina. Obama did North Carolina in 2008. Biden got Georgia in 2020. So there you go. Daily News. Hey, Daily News. Good to see you. Okay, where do you want me? When is the target on, Mark? I hear you this time. This is the time to help. Came out. All right, what are you talking about? Where do I want you? I mean, you live in California, though, Daily News. So, you know, even if you're conservative in California, your vote matters just about as little as my vote does in Louisiana. So, but again, vote for. I mean, if you can't bring yourself in a state that doesn't matter, like California, because it's going to go for Harris, if you can't bring yourself to vote for Harris as a conservative in those states where it doesn't matter, and California's going to go to Harris, Louisiana's going to go to Trump, if you can't bring yourself to vote Harris, vote third party then. Fine, vote third party. Find yourself a good third party candidate, or maybe a not so good third party candidate, but don't vote for Trump. But if you're in states that matter, Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, maybe Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, maybe even Florida. If you're in any of those states and you are convinced that, hey, Donald Trump is anti-Semite and he supports and surrounds himself with people who are other anti-Semites, Nazis, etc., you got to reject him. For the sake of this country, you have to reject him. There's times where there will be time to have the ideological arguments. In 2 years, you'll have a congressional election where many of the people who are excited about this election, excited about voting for Vice President Harris, will unfortunately not show up in 2 years, because that's what happens. Because off-year elections, people on the left get lazy and don't turn out. So there's always room to try and, take House seats, win Senate seats, try and win other things, try and make the ideological arguments to show why you believe that your positions are better than the ones of the people coming from the left. But in this election, right now, right here, defeating Donald Trump is paramount, because we can't elect a Hitler wannabe. And that's what he is. He's a Hitler wannabe. Trump is pro-Trump and that's it? Exactly. That's the other thing. Do I like the fact that, as you say, the, quote, illegals are here? I have no problem with people coming into this country and asking for asylum, especially because we have a giant green statue in the harbor of New York City, partially touching New Jersey or whatever, too. There's a whole argument about that. Whatever. That says, send us your poor, your tired, your wretched refuse yearning to be free. So if we're not going to accept in the, quote, wretched refuse yearning to be free into this country, then we should just dismantle the Statue of Liberty. Make it into something else. Sell it to Elon Musk and he'll put some stupid thing on it or whatever. I don't know. But sell it to my pillow guy and he'll be holding a pillow and then and it'll have 44 or 14 and 88 on it with 234 written across the forehead. But I don't know. Do you, Daily News, like the fact that people are here that you don't want to be here? Because Donald Trump's the one who killed the bill. It was a conservative bill written by a conservative, I think the senators from Oklahoma. He wrote the bill. At least he wrote a good portion of it. And he seemed to be happy with what the bill would have done as it pertains to immigration. So if you wanted an end to what's going on at the border and to fix what's going on, you should be angry at Donald Trump for killing that, because it would have put a stop to many of the things that are going on that you don't like. But Donald Trump would rather have the issue exist until the election so he can continue to use it as an election issue than actually solve the problem. That's not being a leader, that's being selfish. Are there improvements that could be done on the border? Absolutely. One of the improvements that need to be done on the border is you need more judges to be able to adjudicate the cases so that the people can be processed and dealt with and to determine whether or not they're legitimate asylum cases or not. But the Republicans don't want to do that. I also, again, have no reason to believe Donald Trump's numbers on immigration either. I've explained this on previous shows, but I don't know if you've been here to hear that, Daily News, so I'll say it again. Donald Trump, when it came to COVID-19, lied about the numbers. He told Bob Woodward that COVID was worse than the flu. He wouldn't wish it on his worst enemy. He said to Woodward that he told the American public that it was no worse than the flu because he likes to downplay threats. He likes to sugarcoat things. He sugarcoats things so much we should all have diabetes at this point. So, and then at Tulsa, in the Tulsa rally, where Herman Cain died, or where Herman Cain got COVID and then died, because Donald Trump killed Herman Cain. Something else on Herman Cain in a second, to amuse yourself and your loved ones, or maybe not amuse the loved ones, but he said he wanted to slow down testing, because when you have more testing, you have more cases. Again, stupid, because the cases exist regardless of whether or not you test for them or not. But he didn't want people knowing the numbers. He didn't want people knowing the actual numbers of people who, were infected with COVID, so we could do a better reaction to it. But he didn't want people knowing the truth. He didn't want people knowing the facts, knowing the numbers. So why would I believe that Donald Trump would do anything to give us honest numbers when it came to immigration during his 4 years as president? I have no reason to believe that anything about what he did on immigration is, pertaining to drugs coming in. I would believe that it's not beyond Donald Trump to say, don't go after the fentanyl people, because if you catch people with fentanyl, we're going to have to report that you caught people with fentanyl, and as such, people are going to think that we have a weak border because you're catching people with fentanyl. Whereas the other side is actually more true. Like Joe Biden has caught lots of people trying to bring fentanyl into the country, which means they're doing their job stopping the fentanyl from getting into the country. Why would I believe Donald Trump would be any better on immigration? Donald Trump likes to do things in visible ways that you can see. So, like, he'll be like, I'm going to deport all the low-hanging fruit. I'm going to take all these dreamers and yeet them. But he won't do anything meaningful to actually stop anything. We won't see numbers coming in because he doesn't want us to see those numbers coming in, because that'll then make him look bad. At least in his eyes. So, Surfer Norm, undocumented workers do 80% of the farm field work in the U.S. American kids won't work that hard. And it's also true that you have people who are coming across to do these jobs that people are unwilling to do. Now, I've said for the longest time, if you want to stop people from coming over here and taking our gerbs, as they say in South Park, they took our gerbs. If you're sad about the people taking our gerbs, we would punish the companies for paying any wage that's less than the minimum. Simple as that. If you're paying undocumented workers at less than the minimum wage under the table, then you're in violation of the labor laws, and as such, you should be punished accordingly. Oh, the jobs would dry up then, and maybe, just maybe, Americans would want to do those jobs if they paid a wage that was, livable. Or maybe, just maybe, even if they didn't want to do the jobs, and you could then have documented migrants coming in and doing those jobs and paying those documented migrants wages that are fair and reasonable and livable. Right? But no, they don't want that. They don't want to solve the problem. Conservatives don't want to solve the problem. Conservatives want it to continue to be a problem so they can run on it. Frankly, I was surprised. Hey, Rose. Frankly, I was surprised that they actually were okay with them overturning Roe v. Wade. Because at that point, they no longer could. They running on it now, it becomes a hindrance to them, because now people are running on the fact that Roe v. Wade is overturned. When Roe v. Wade was the rule of the land, the law of the land, as well as Casey versus Planned Parenthood, when those two rulings were the laws of the land, guess what? People, who are on the left kind of, didn't take it as seriously as maybe they should, because they thought it was the law of the land, a done deal, that there was no way that it would be overturned. I wasn't so gullible, but, no one listens to me. What was 6 years ago Daily News? The Tulsa rally? The Woodward? I mean, the Woodward thing was 4 years ago, not 6. And while there may have been slightly better ways to have was it Joe Biden that was president when people were being prevented from seeing family members during lockdown? I thought that was still Trump that was president during the worst parts of the pandemic. But hey, don't let facts get in the way, right? Dean Baker, I was born and raised in the Heartland, 1953. I think I know what America is, and Trump ain't it. Thank you. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. Robin M. Trump applies for special visas for immigrants to work at Mar-a-Lago and Bedminster and his wineries because he can't find Americans to work for him, he says. Well, I mean, there you go. Why would you want to work for Trump? Trump has a history of stiffing people for labor done for him. Anybody working for Donald Trump is a moron at this point. If you do any labor, especially if you're a contractor hired by Donald Trump, you better get paid up front and you better get paid 100% up front, or else you ain't getting paid at all. That's for sure. You're a Jew, although you're not Polish, but you were in Poland. Okay. What? I thought you just said you were from Poland, and now you're saying you're not Polish, you're Jewish? You can be Jewish and Polish. They're not mutually exclusive. But again, if you're a Jewish person, then why on earth are you going to vote for Donald Trump? When he's putting our people at risk by preemptively blaming Jews for his upcoming loss. If his supporters if his supporters start attacking synagogues and other places where Jews congregate, are you going to come in and say, hey, you were right, or are you going to just deny it? Let's see, Jeff Curry. His son has a friend from India. He was literally left on a doorstep, has no idea how old he is, but he's happy to be here now. Adlo, your story doesn't give you the right to deny others the same opportunity now. True. Donald Trump treats everybody less than exactly Becky. Your family was sent to Warsaw. Okay. All right, that makes sense. But still, from wherever you were from, you're still Jewish, and are you still voting for Trump? Even after it's been shown that Trump surrounds himself with, supports, and otherwise embraces anti-Semitism at every chance he has? Or are you going to vote against your best interests? Or do you think that maybe if you're one of the good ones who votes for Donald Trump, that will somehow save you? Let's see. How does any of this give you the right to deny someone seeking asylum now? If chance to, our Jewish community supports Trump. They shouldn't. That's my point. You shouldn't support Trump. He's literally putting our lives at risk. He's literally putting us. He is a threat to Jewish people at this point, because he's blaming us for his upcoming loss. And there are his supporters are gonna. He knows how his supporters listen to him. He knows that he can manipulate them into doing what he wants them to do with enough plausible deniability to shield him from such things, even if it's not realistic deniability. Dean, I bit the nail on the head. Ouch, that might hurt my teeth. But yeah, thank you. But yeah, I just don't get how any Jewish person could sit here and justify voting for Donald Trump at this point. There's no way. Again, Trump and the My Pillow guy are like this. That My Pillow ad is clearly anti-Semitic. Clear dog whistles. And what was your response, Adlo? Your response was, well, that's not from Poland. I don't remember ever seeing those things in Poland. That doesn't make it not anti-Semitic. While lots of anti-Semitism happened in Europe, lots of anti-Semitism has happened here too. There was a whole bunch of Nazis in America that didn't want us interfering with Germany because they considered what the Germans were doing, again, as a feature, not a bug. Let's see, what did Benny say? Oh, Steve. Oh, Jim Jones. Okay, talking about Jim Jones with the Kool-Aid. Yeah. Let's see. Adlo says, you have victim this in the first country you will run. What? What does that even mean? I don't understand what that means. I'm sorry if that seemed rough, but I don't understand what those words mean. See, Robin M. Jewish people, dark-skinned people, Mexicans, working people, groovy people, interesting people, smart people, gay people, trans people. Lots of different people. There's plenty of reasons to not vote for Donald Trump. Long-haired hippie people need not apply. But yeah, I mean, we've said before on the show, if you're labor and you're supporting Donald Trump, why? Donald Trump is a union buster. Go listen to his audio that they had between him and Musk during that interview. During the interview that Musk posted on the shitter, that you had, he was basically applauding Musk for being a union buster. Donald Trump does not like unions. He'll only like a union if they support him because Donald Trump is transactional. But for any union member to support Donald Trump is to be like Charlie Brown trying to kick the football and thinking that Lucy will magically hold the football this time. It's just not going to happen. Donald Trump will never support labor, not once. Anything that he says that you think is in support of labor is just not going to matter. So Good night, Roxanne. Thank you. Sorry to see you go, but I understand that it's weird. What is President Trump moving the he didn't move the Capitol. He didn't. What? President Trump did not move the capital in Israel. The capital of Israel has been and will be Jerusalem. It's not. Maybe the other countries recognize it as Tel Aviv, but he didn't move the capital. He moved the embassy, and he got nothing for it. That was stupid. It was stupid of him to move the embassy and not get anything for it. Simple as that. It was a dumb move. And just because he moved an embassy, he did that just to poke at the Arab people, to poke at the Palestinians, to poke at Muslims, to poke at people who are not Israeli in the region. He didn't do it for any good reason. He didn't do it because he loves Jewish people. I'm sure in the back of his mind when Ivanka married Kushner, he probably was just like, I can't believe she's marrying him, but I guess I'll have to deal with him because he has money. But no, moving the embassy does not prove he loves Jewish people, nor does it disprove that he hates us. Him saying that it's Jews are to blame for him losing, and that we will be to blame for him losing again. That's anti-Semitism. He's scapegoating Jews for his impending loss. That's anti-Semitism. Again, it's going to rile up hatred of Jews in this country. He's doing more to rile up hatred of Jews, and he did it at an anti-Semitism conference. You couldn't write this stuff. So bizarre. Wait, Armageddon. Hitler made a race and they are now here. The baby market was to mix races with Jewish. What does that even mean, Armageddon? I don't even understand what you're talking about. Tel Aviv was an administrative center, if I'm correct. There are a lot of people with embassies in Tel Aviv, and some of them, I guess one or two, I think, are in Jerusalem, maybe. I don't know. But still, he didn't get anything for it. It was a dumb deal. So-called Art of the Deal guy got nothing for doing that transactional thing, which is silly. No, there's no fake mail-in ballots, Daily News. Stop it. We're not going there tonight anywhere. Lviv has something to do with the Jerusalem move. Diamond Magnet, a friend of Putin in 45. Maybe. Adlohim, I wish I had a picture of my parents and brother and sister. I would never want attention for them. I would them to be remembered. Well, that's why one of the things we say as Jewish people, as you know, but for the benefit of others, we don't say rest in peace. We say may their memories be a blessing, or may their memory be a blessing when somebody who's Jewish passes away. That's the Jewish thing to say, because we want to remember their memories and the good times that we had with them. So, Dean Baker, like all his deals, flops. Exactly, like the deal he made with OPEC and Russia back in 2020, in April of 2020, for them to reduce the output of oil, which tried to stem the tanking oil prices, but it didn't have an exit point, or an early exit point from it going into 2022, well into the next term, and he wound up screwing American gasoline buyers, because by reducing supply and production without taking into consideration the increased demand, as we've covered on the show before, means that gasoline prices were doomed to skyrocket because of, Donald Trump's ineptitude when it comes to things. Unless it was purposeful, unless he invested in oil futures and was like, I'm going to invest in oil futures and let's make it so that oil prices skyrockets. Simple as that. See, I'll have to catch up. Did Grumpy Man leave? Maybe? I don't know. Maybe. Yes, Donnie gave Kushner's dad a pardon. Of course, yes, that is true. Again, as I said earlier in the show, there's always going to be things. There's a bit by a comedian, and he starts talking about all of the stuff that Donald Trump did during his campaign or whatever, and it's like an Australian comedian. I mean, he's sitting there, and the first time I remember watching it, I was like, that's right, he did that too, didn't he? Like, there's so much stuff that Donald Trump has done that's negative that it's hard to remember every single one of them in any single conversation, because there's just so much that he's done that's wrong. Armageddon, what tribe are you from? You asking me or asking Adlo? I mean, most people who are Jewish are from the tribe of Judah to begin with. I mean, you have the Kohanim, the Levites, and the Israeli, or whatever. You have the three kind of branches. You have the Kohens, who can be the priests or whatever, and then the Levites, and then the other ones. But most of the people, I think, are from the tribe of Judah, because there is the other 11 lost tribes, as I understand it. So every day for years. Yep. Dean Baker, we want you in our coalition to preserve justice, liberty, and freedom, Adlo. That's right. Because that's what's at stake here. You let Donald Trump get into office. If you live in a state that matters and you let Trump get into office, we're doomed. We are absolutely doomed, because he is transactional. He will bend over backwards and forwards for Putin. He'll blame any minority to take any responsibility away from him and his actions and his failures. So if it means that he's going to blame Jews, he'll blame Jews. And don't think for a second that you'll be considered one of the good ones. They'll come after you too. And if you came out of Warsaw, if you came out of Poland in 1945, if you were destined for the gas chambers, if you were destined for that, you should know better. You should know better than to support somebody who spouts anti-Semitic crap, who does anti-Semitic crap, who surrounds himself with anti-Semitic people, with people who admire Hitler, with people who run pillow ads that use 3 different racist anti-Semitic tropes. Not just 2, but 3. Doesn't make any sense. I cannot sit here and fathom for me. Well, you're literally voting again. At least with the poor, uneducated folks who are voting for Trump, at least they have some, delusion that they might become one day billionaires or whatever, and as such, they don't want to be taxed like the way Vice President Harris wants to tax people with a worth of, was it $100 or $400 million or more, or whatever it is. At least they can draw that line there and be like, well, if this ever happens to me, then I want to be protected under this tax plan or whatever. But if you're Jewish and you vote for somebody spouting anti-Semitic rhetoric and surrounding himself with anti-Semitic people, and you're fooling yourself into believing that you'll be considered one of the good ones and you'll be protected and you'll be safe because you'll be able to point to your vote at the ballot booth and say, but I wore the MAGA hat. I voted for you, mein leader. Mein Führer, I voted for you. Don't march me to the camp. I voted for you. They're not going to care. His minions aren't going to care. They're not going to check to see whether or not you were loyal. They're just going to go after you because you're Jewish, because to them, 60% of Jewish people don't vote for him, and as such, going after us is a way to help Donald Trump secure victory, in Donald Trump's mind at least. So your community is, frankly, a bunch of morons then, because you're supporting, you're voting in a way that's against your best interest. There's nothing more I can say. I mean, if you have an entire Jewish community that's voting for Donald Trump after he said those words that he's blaming all Jews for his loss, and you don't recognize what that's going to do to us, you're fooling yourself. Absolutely fooling yourself. There's no way that Donald Trump is good for us as Jewish people or country, but altogether. It's not nice, but it's not nice to vote for an anti-Semite. It's not nice for you to support the person who's putting us at risk. If you're going to support the person that puts me and my loved ones and my family at risk just because you think you're somehow going to be magically safe because you're one of the, quote, good ones, or you don't want to believe the words that he's saying, you don't want to listen to the fact that he's literally blaming. Did you see the video, Adlo? Did you see the video of him saying that it was the Jews' fault, that he'll lose? He'll blame the Jews if he loses. What do you think's going to happen to us? If he loses and then he continues to blame the Jewish people, do you think his listeners, do you think his followers are going to be happy-go-lucky and just ignore his words, or do you think they're going to come after us? Do you think they're going to care that you wore the MAGA hat? No. They'll probably be like, oh, you just wore that just to protect yourself. Hold on. Apparently my cat has a roach that she's playing with. When did he say about God's chosen people not supporting him? He said it at an anti-Semitic. You must have come in late. Hold on. Let's bring this back up. Bring it back over here. Alternate scene.
Now I've done all these things, so now Jewish people have no excuse. I got 29%. I went from 25 to 29%. Think of that. Honestly, you didn't treat yourselves well. You didn't. It was a terrible thing. And what made me even more upset about it is the current polling has just been announced. Now, I just announced the polls and I'm now polling at about 40%. That means 60% of Jewish people are going to vote for Kamala or a Democrat. And honestly, you ought to have your heads examined. You ought to have your heads examined. And those votes may be necessary for us to win. I say us to win because we're in this together. But who are these people? Who are the 60% that would vote? And I really believe that bad things, very bad things are going to happen. And I'll put it to you very simply and as gently as I can. I wasn't treated properly by the voters who happen to be Jewish. I don't know, do they know what the hell is happening? If I don't win this election, and the Jewish people would really have a lot to do with that if that happens, because at 40%, that means 60% of the people are voting for the enemy. Israel, in my opinion, will...
So there you go. There you go. Is that good enough for you, Daily News? Does that give you the answer that you need about whether or not, Donald Trump is blaming Jews for his previous loss and for his upcoming loss? If he loses and it's 60-40, it could be the Jews' fault. It could be we need our heads examined, according to Donald Trump. You need your head examined for voting for Donald Trump, regardless, especially if you're Jewish. And then, of course, the Mind Pillow guy. If you missed that too, let's bring that back up for another round, because, apparently that needs to be brought up for another round because people need to see this again and again and again. My Pillow guy. Price of the pillows, $14.88. 14 is the 14 words that white supremacists love. 88. H is the 8th letter of the alphabet. 88. HH. Hail Hitler. People who are anti-Semitic, people who are neo-Nazis will use those two combinations of letters often together to promote their bigotry and their hatred of Jewish people. And R234, the code R234. 234 is the New Aryan Nation group or whatever, their slogan, "To the dirt." 2 has 2 letters, "the" has 3 letters, "dirt" has 4 letters. 234 is a slogan that is used by white supremacist neo-Nazis. And the Mind Pillow guy is all on board the Trump train, and he's part of that crew too. So Donald Trump clearly blaming Jews if he loses, and he's preparing everybody to be ready to blame the Jews if he does lose, which is anti-Semitism. And he's doing it at a conference of anti-Semitism. And then the My Pillow guy, Donald Trump and My Pillow guy are like this, and he's supporting anti-Semitic imagery in his ads. It's in trying to sell his pillows to, I guess, neo-Nazis. I mean, I guess if you have the pillowcases, they could work as a hood, right? That's I guess the bonus for, with every pillowcase comes a pair of scissors, so you can use it as a hood for your next meeting if you're short one. Who knows? But Mark Robinson calling himself a black Nazi. Donald Trump full-throatedly supported Mark Robinson, said that he was Martin Luther King on steroids or whatever it was that he said, calling him Mark Robinson, anything close to Martin Luther King is horrible for the memory of Dr. King. What else do you need? I don't know what else people need at this point. He has proven himself time and time again to not be somebody who should be anywhere near the reins of power. The people who worked in his administration understand this. Many Republicans, Dick frickin' Cheney and Liz frickin' Cheney, understand that he belongs nowhere near the reins of power. There are lots of Republicans who are coming to the realization, that this is not the case. What else do people need to know? Or just hiding your head in the sand like the ostrich, like the proverbial ostrich, not caring because you think somehow it's magically going to be better for you, even though it's not, because he proved time and time again that he was inept while president. His inept handling of the pandemic killed hundreds of thousands more people than needed to. His inept handling of the oil deal caused gasoline prices to skyrocket after he left office once demand shot up, with no requirement in the agreement that he negotiated to start pumping out more oil once demand started increasing. Killed Herman Cain. What do you want? What do you need at this point to change your mind? Would you have to literally come up and grab one of your loved ones by their hoo-ha? Or would you make an excuse for that too? Robin M. 234 isn't numerology. It's just letters of words in a sequence. Yes, but it's still 234 is still used by the New Aryan Empire in their whatever it is that they use. They'll use 234 in Roman or Latin numbers or whatever, numerals. But they'll still use 234 to represent their ideology to the dirt. That's what it stands for to them. So it can't just be a coincidence that 234 was used in the same ad that 1488 was used. It's not a coincidence whatsoever. I'm here, Kelly. I'm here because I need a break from family drama. Trump can always make your problems seem small. Unless you compare your problems to his hands, then they might not seem as small. But, it is what it is. The oil companies need to make up for the dip, so they jacked it up for the same length of time if you look at the charts. Right, but it's still, Donald Trump negotiated that deal, and that deal was bad because it didn't compensate for the fact that you had to do something. Donald Trump did have to do something when it came to the fact that oil prices were dropping so low that it was going to kill American oil industry because Russia and OPEC were in a price war. So something had to be done, but what was done wasn't good because it caused... Again, and my conspiracy theory here, and I'm not huge on conspiracy theories, but my conspiracy theory here is that if he knew that he was going to lose already, why not negotiate that deal just to make Biden look bad? And then he can use the fact that he probably knew that gas prices were going to skyrocket because of the increased production of oil and then the increased demand of gasoline that would come as we came out of the pandemic. And then he would be able to say, oh, look, gas prices are high under Biden, see? And pay no attention to the man behind the curtain that caused it in the first place. So... Dan, those groups are so small and make up no power in this country. Yet they try to disrupt an election. The problem is not the fact that the groups are small. The problem is that you have these other people who will enable them by looking the other way. Half the problem is the people looking the other way. You can't wait. The lesson that everybody should have learned from World War II, from Nazi Germany, from the Third Reich, from Adolf Hitler, the lesson that everybody should have learned is you don't wait till the Nazis become 1945 Nazis to stop them. You wait. You stop the Nazis when they're 1933 Nazis or before. Because that's one of the biggest problems that I've noticed when discussing, when calling Trump out on his using Hitler rhetoric, when calling people out for being Nazis, is that people shrug it off. Like, they'll say, what's going on now is nothing compared to, like, 1942 to 1945. Or 1941 to 1945. It's nothing compared to that. But that's not the point. The point is you don't ever let it get to that. Don't let it get to 1941. Don't let it get to 1945. Nip it in the bud early. That's why we're trying to raise the alarm bells now. Say, look, this is what this MFer's trying to do. We know the playbook. It's just like if you ever watched the movie Waterboy. And every single play that Coach Klein was trying to do in the Waterboy, Henry Winkler's character, was being stopped because the other team had Coach Klein's playbook. So whenever they lined up for a particular play, the other team knew exactly what to do. We have the playbook. It's called history books. We know how these people rose to power. But yet we're being told by people, on the right, that because what they're saying now is not akin to what happened in between 1941 and 1945, that we shouldn't worry about it. But no, we should be worried about it because they're sounding like they're in 1933 or before. They're telling us who they are, and you're not believing them. And if you're coming out of a freaking concentration camp as a kid and you don't understand this, then I would really suggest you take some time for a little introspection. Really sit and think. Maybe Liberal Dan has a point here. Maybe I can overlook the fact that Liberal Dan is Liberal Dan. Maybe I can overlook the fact that he's a progressive. Maybe I can overlook the fact that he supports some leftist things I might not agree with. And understand that defeating the Nazi is the most important thing. Not letting the Nazi get back into power is the most important thing. Not letting the person scapegoating his loss on the Jews is the most important thing. Not letting the person who called for a total and complete ban of Muslims entering this country, running on scapegoating Muslims in 2016. Stopping that person is the priority. Thank you, Bethany. When I do come up with conspiracy theories, I at least like to make them plausible. Even if they're not necessarily true, I like to make them plausible. And knowing Donald Trump and how corrupt of a business person he is, I fully believe that it's not just plausible, but it's possible. I don't know if it's the case. I haven't looked at his portfolio to know whether or not if he invested in, oil futures in that time between, January of 2020 or maybe April of 2020 to whatever. I don't know if he did that or not. It would be great if someone would find that out and then prove my conspiracy theory right. That would be great. But fortunately, I'm right too often. I was right about Trump naming 3 Supreme Court justices. People called me crazy back then. People mocked me for me trying to say that Trump was using Hitler's rhetoric and back then, and then he started doing some more things. I don't know if you remember this. I don't know how young. Nobody's losing. The people that are losing freedoms in this country are because of Donald Trump, Adlo. The people losing freedoms in this country are the people who can't save their own lives if they're having a miscarrying pregnancy. If you're miscarrying and your life is at risk, you have to wait till you're on death's door before certain states will allow doctors to act. The freedom to protect your own life is under assault by Republicans in this country. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are not a threat to your freedoms, Adlo. Not one bit. Yeah, Adlo, the 40s were a very horrific time in this world. Many people lost their lives. Absolutely. That's a true statement. But we don't want to let it get there. You don't say, oh, well, we're not there yet, so why worry? No, you don't let it get to that point. You don't let him get back into power. That's the point that I'm trying to make here. You have to stop it before it becomes the 40s. You have to stop it in the 30s. Because you don't stop it when it's already entrenched. Without external military help, who's going to be the external military that saves everybody from the U.S. military? Nobody. The only person that comes in is Putin. And Putin comes in just to take it. And Trump will be like, well, I think it's in the best interest for us to just, become a Russian puppet state at this point. Whatever. So. All right, let's do what you want me to do. We'll do that. We'll search this particular thing. What is it? Joe Scarborough. You left me with a swamp full of body parts. Let's see. Let's pop this open. We're not playing the video yet or whatever. Let's see. This is the missing link you need to know about. I've been claiming this swamp full of body parts the past 13 years. I formed a written complaint about M.R. Birkeland after the Florida Department of Health and took years to get his license revoked, only to find out that they were all covering for him and employing him through a company that contracts with Florida Department of L&E or whatever. He is now a crime specialist for Forensic Puzzle, blah, blah, blah. My life story is hanging from a tweet by Trump's team at George Scarborough, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, maybe I'll watch that after the show, and we'll peek into it in maybe another show if it's something that I feel is worthy of covering. But anyway. Impeccable Living's back. How are you? How are you, Impeccable Living? Are you able to walk straight? Sorry. Bicycle Mike is a troll leader. Well, we were all talking earlier about what the best way to serve a troll is, and we all know now that they come with their own wine, right? It's a big hook. The crazy caucus maggots and Evan racist white Christian nationalists who want fascism want to pray at the church of right-wing billionaires giving up their and your rights and freedoms. Exactly. I don't know if y'all know, many 80-year-olds aren't farting around on YouTube chats. I mean, that's also something. There are some people who are older who are technically savvy. I don't know, but It is what it is. Hey, Teresa, it's good to see you. Liberal Dan, I don't need a wheelchair yet. Well, good. That's good. Good to hear. Whisper Mason, grinders, po' boys, submarine sandwiches. You got that sandwich club you're a member of. Well, there's a club sandwich, right? You know, a sandwich club or a club sandwich. We have po' boys down here. Po' boys are delicious. I need a po' boy. I haven't had a po' boy in a while. See, again, thank you. And by the way, baby with no DNA is proof of a cover-up. I am the mother as well. Interesting. Again, I'll take a look at it and we'll see. We'll see if I can do that. You have your grandson here with me. Is your grandson was the one that was initially watching the show? Stop making you hungry. I'm sorry, Hedge. I mean, I'm about to go eat too because I had lunch. I didn't have dinner yet, so I'm gonna have dinner in a second. Wow. The last hour flew by. I can't believe it's 10 o'clock already. Anyway, so see, Whisper Mason, they call them grinders in Jersey. Are you out of Jersey? Impeccable. That's not the type of grinder that he's into. Whisper. He's on a different type of grinder. A more technological grinder, if you will. I don't see nothing wrong with a little bump and grinder. Anyway, sorry. Puffballs. What are puffballs? Tell me what puffballs are. That sounds interesting. Is that like with puff pastry? Like cheese, spinach? What? Tell me what's in it. Sounds good. It can make me more hungry. One thing I wanted to tell y'all about how the fun you could have with your family. If you know the Scorpion song, the "Here I am, rocked you like a hurricane." So when I sing the song, and whenever the song comes on the radio, I sing "Here I am, rocked you like I'm Herman Cain." So, and I've made people sing the wrong lyrics to the song now. So instead of "rocked you like a hurricane," it's "rocked you like I'm Herman Cain." So yeah, there's that. I also have screwed over people's understanding of the Alana song. It's not fair to deny me of the cross-eyed bear that you gave to me. So, cross-eyed bear. Of course, Impeccable might think a cross-eyed bear is, you know, a guy with bad vision on Grindr. So, who's, you know, a little chubby and hairy. Grinders were born in Connecticut, by the way. Interesting fact. Now you know something new. And now you know. And knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe. Anyway. I definitely need me some cheesesteaks. I actually made a kind of sort of cheesesteak the other day. It's the best I could do at the time. I didn't have any whiz. But I did saute up some red onions. Sauteed up some meat in a different pan. Put the onions with the meat together. Put some provolone on it, put it on a hoagie roll with some mayo, salt, and pepper, and it was delicious. I did a very good job with it. So, hey, Jimmy, you give love a Band-Aid, shot through the heart, and you're to blame. You give love a Band-Aid. Now there you go. Now you've ruined that song for me. Mazel tov. There you go. Why is the Jew talking about Grindr? Because Impeccable Living is one of my listeners and he happens to enjoy the service. You know, there are also gay Jews. I don't use Grindr, but, you know, other people do. And I'm sure some of them are Jewish and, you know, more power to them. Mazel tov if you find a good match on Grindr. So, yes, and Republicans are the ones who crashed Grindr at the RNC, which is hilarious. A hilarious amount of hypocrisy that it takes to crash Grindr at the Republican National Convention is just beyond me. Yes, Mike Hunt. Thank you, Michael Hunt. There's a bathroom on the right. A good classic misheard lyric. Let's see. I wonder if the cross-eyed bear one has made it. onto like lists of top misheard lyrics, because this is the part of Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, That's Right, where we start talking about the silly stuff, because after talking about serious stuff, like about how Trump is making it dangerous for Jewish people, oh, you got Jimi Hendrix, excuse me while I kiss this guy. Trucker John, there are gay Jews, learn something new every day. I mean, I do define myself as, or describe myself as pansexual, but that's more because I've never been with like a cis guy, but there's a long story to it, but your gender doesn't determine if I'm attracted to you or not. Whatever gender is on your birth certificate doesn't determine. So if you're non-binary, if you're a trans man or something and I'm still attracted to you, then I'm not going to technically be straight, but whatever. My wife's a woman, but that's, you know, and she's a wonderful person and I love her very much. And she's home, so yay. Well, she was home Wednesday, I guess, so y'all know that she was home already. Let's see. Well, of course, there's NSYNC. It's going to be May. Dancing Queen, feel the beat on the tangerine. We built this city. We built this city on sausage rolls. I don't know if I've really heard that one. Let's see, here's an interesting thing. This is not the Bon Jovi one, Living on a Prayer. Someone had brought up Living on a Prayer here. People mistake the line, it doesn't make a difference if we make it or not. Some people say it doesn't make a difference if we're naked or not. But I've heard, I like for Living on a Prayer, take my pants, we'll make it, I swear. Instead of take my hands, take my pants, we'll make it, I swear. Whoa! There was a comedian that did do one stand-up. Celine Dion, I do believe the heart does go on. If you listen to it, it really sounds like she's saying, I believe that the hot dogs go on. Some people have heard in Selena Gomez's single, Good For You, the line is, I'm 14 carat. Some people think she's saying, I'm farting carrots. That's hilarious. I may have said this before, Liberal Dan, I'd let you lie on top of me and tell me my horoscope. Nice. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Big Hook, I thought you were trisexual, you try anything. Or there was always the joke, you know, about, I'm bisexual, buy me something, I'll get sexual. And somebody asked, is Liberal Dan After Dark still going to be a thing? If I get this up and running enough to where this is, you know, doing well, and maybe it'll be a thing, but I'm not making it yet. Even if I reserve the channel name, and to be the future home of the channel, to be the future home of Liberal Dan After Dark, I'm still not necessarily going to focus on it, because I want, especially before the election. So, one of my favorite new ones that I like to do with any song is anyone's talking about the rain. Like, John Forward is like, I want to know, have you ever seen Lorraine? So instead of the rain, it's Lorraine. But you can do it with any song that mentions the rain. Like, I can see clearly now, Lorraine is gone. So there's lots of songs that mention the rain. Songs that say the rain. Let's see if I can find that. There's a whole bunch of those available. The Eurythmics. Here comes Lorraine again. Singing in Lorraine. Just singing in Lorraine. What else? Blame it on the rain. Yeah, yeah. Actually, if I'm singing that one, I should be like, because that's how Milli Vanilli sung it, right? The It's Raining Men doesn't quite work because you have to have the rain. But yeah. Trucker John. By the way, I haven't said, hey, it's Trucker John. Good to see you, Trucker John. For many years, I generally thought 10th Avenue freeze out was tell the devil you can freeze hell. Nice. Jeff Curry, I saw this small band open for Rat. I said we'll never make it big. That was Bon Jovi. That's amazing. That's funny. The original, I'm not talking about Millennium. I'm not talking about moving in. Let's see. Beyonce song, put a ring on it. If the lyrics work just as well if you change the chorus to, if you like it, then you should have put some spin on it. Why is that? That's the Hawk Tua's girl, right? Hawk Tua, spin on that thing. Dan, if you ever make it to Uranus, Sun said you should make a video to promote you, the band, too. Totally. If I ever do make it up, if I ever make it up Uranus, I'll be more than happy to make a video promoting it. Oh, it's so funny. I will never stop being a 13-year-old kid with some things, especially when it comes to the town of Uranus and the fudge that comes out of it. I can't stand the rain on my window pane. Brings back sweet memories. Nice, Benny. That's good. Bicycle Mike. I'm scared of people with phobias. Last night was for me. Big hug. I got more D's than a kid with an undiagnosed dyslexia. Wow. Mazel tov, though. Good for you. I did see Bon Jovi at Jazz Fest. One of the weird things, I did see Bruce Springsteen at Jazz Fest, but he didn't do any Bruce Springsteen songs. It was all folk music, which is kind of weird. You were funny, impeccable. You would give Nutcracker a run for his money. Well, I mean, he might do that too. Zing. Yes, Dean Baker. Uranus is in Missouri, and there's all sorts of fun things you can do in Uranus, including, they say, the best fudge comes from Uranus. So, yeah, like the blinded by the light, a bunch of frickin' douchebags. It's pronounced Uranus. I know Trucker John. Some people say Uranus, Trucker John, but still like to say Uranus, because, I've always devolved back down to a 13-year-old kid. It's kind of like when I watched the Beavis and Butthead movie that came out, and they were dealing with time travel, and they went into space or whatever, and of course the space center that they went to was the Johnson Space Center. As soon as they showed Johnson Space Center on TV, my inner just was like, Johnson. So anyway, they're cookies and cream fudge is the shit. Let's see. Benny Loco, you have phobia bikes. I'm like, yes. Phobia. Is that a thing? What my favorite phobia? I need to find the exact spelling of it, but phobia, an intense fear of phobias or fear of being afraid, is phobia. There you go. It is literally the fear of being afraid. So it's a true thing. But my favorite phobia is the fear of palindromes. The fear of palindromes, which is hilarious because it's abophobia. And I'll put it in the chat. Just so you can see how it's spelled. Abophobia is literally a palindrome. So they made the word for the fear of palindromes into a palindrome just to piss off the people who might actually be afraid of palindromes. So, see. So Benny Loco, the fear of people of phobias is called phobia, which is the fear of fear itself. So So that's when what was it when FDR said the only thing we have to fear, he should have just said, is phobia. Wow, impeccable living. That's going for it all, right? Yeah, I love abophobia. Abophobia is like one of the best words. It's as opposed to Donald Trump, who claims to have the best words. Abophobia is literally one of the best words. It's the best. Nobody has better words. Nobody has better water. We had the best water when I was pregnant. That was so great during the thing. Like, I made that thing, and then I shared a clip of that to my friend who made an animated GIF about it. Because, like, my water was so good, it was not H2O, it was H3O. And then I turned it into a Liberal Dan's Chopper City thing. If you're new to the show and you haven't checked those out, there's a playlist for Liberal Dan Chopper City in the list of playlists, and you can actually see all of the things that I did. The first one that started off was actually during COVID when they did Sturgis, the Sturgis rally in the middle of COVID in, at Sturgis in South Dakota or whatever. And I was basically, hypothetically speaking, was hypothesizing that because all these people went to Sturgis with all of their hogs and Harleys or whatever, they probably would come back, and then there would be a whole bunch of excess Harleys because all the people with Harleys, who went to Sturgis dropped dead of COVID. So that was my idea. There was to then make Liberal Dan Chopper City, where we were getting all the deals for you. And if you got the a chopper from Liberal Dan Chopper City right now, you give a 12-pack of toilet paper and a case of disinfectant or whatever. So just in case the starts to spread again, you'll be protected. So, agoraphobia, the fear of Agora Hills in California. I actually, my aunt used to live in Agora Hills, so. But yes, it has a U in it. That is correct. Do the people in Calabasas have agoraphobia? Nice. Bicycle Mike went to the same high school there, same as Doug Emhoff. Were you in a class with Doug Emhoff? Did you know him, or just happened to go to the same high school as him? So, best phobia names. Let's see. There's also the other one. There's also, what's the word for not a palindrome? There's a word for something that's not. So if something that are not palindromes, palindrome is not a palindrome, but it is a Semordenlap. So that's the funny thing, that the word palindrome should have been made into a palindrome, but it's not. But somebody came up with the word Semordenlap, which is the word that means something differently when it's spelled backwards, which is hilarious too. It's just palindrome backwards. No Glenn Beck frozen horse jizz porridge prepper breakfast, you monster. I know, I'm a terrible person for not buying into the prepper meals or whatever. So, what is it when you're afraid of widths? I don't know. Fear of widths. Is that a something? I don't know. People are afraid of heights, not me. I'm afraid of widths. Oh, Stephen Wright. It's a Stephen Wright joke. Good. Well played. I didn't even recognize it as being a Stephen Wright joke. I'm afraid of widths. Hilarious. What else before we... Now, I've never heard when the Eurythmics sing Sweet Dreams, like when they say sweet dreams are made of these, like I don't know who would think it would be sweet dreams are made of cheese, but I do sing sweet dreams are made of cheese because who'd have a mind to disagree? Elvis Presley, Suspicious Minds. We're Caught in a Trap. Some people have heard recording a track, they call it a tramp, or we caught him a trout. Ariana Grande, Thank You Next. I'm so effing grateful for my eggs in her song, but she was actually singing I'm so fucking grateful for my ex. Nice. So, some of these are silly. Like, some of these are ones that I've never heard. They're just kind of like people just trying to make it up with the misheard things. Some listeners have heard I'm a lion, I'm a vinyl, I'm a skittle, I'm a beetle, but I've never heard that. It's I'm a mulatto, an albino, a mosquito, my libido. Anyway. This one is one I have heard on the original one. Got a list of all ex-lovers or whatever in the headset song, but in the original version of the song, in the newer version of Taylor Swift's song, got a long list of ex-lovers, and it's actually clearer in the new production of the song. But the old song does actually sound like she says, all the lonely Starbucks lovers, they'll tell me I'm insane. It's getting 11:23 here. It's 10:24 here. Whatever. So anyway, we'll probably just go ahead and call this the end. And if you're watching on Twitch, it'll probably be a hard end because I don't have the outro music to play. I need to catch that and then capture it again so we can play it again because I don't know what I did with that music file. But anyway, tomorrow there's the Nerds for Kamala Harris thing that a bunch of nerd actors and actresses and whoever are putting on. I'll probably be watching that for a little bit, but I don't think it's going to interfere with my regular Nerdy Dan stream, 8 p.m. Central here, or on, not here, but on twitch.tv/nerdydan.com. That's where I'll be tomorrow if you want to join, and we can still talk politics and all that other fun stuff then. Wednesday, again, 8 p.m. Central here on liberaldanradio.com, twitch.tv/liberaldanradio as well. So thank you, everyone, for joining in. Make sure to, again, if you haven't liked the video, like, subscribe, share videos with your friends. Let's get these algorithms up because, again, Al Gore needs more rhythm. Until next time I see you, have a good one. Peace.